Ugh, Christ almighty. Wow. Never have I seen one of the most biggest bailouts in the history of sports. Leafs lose 4-3 in overtime to the Carolina Hurricanes, and what the hell was that tonight? One of, if not the most pathetic game I've seen ever in overtime. I mean, they played a little better than the Islanders game, not gonna lie, but we let freaking Alexander Nikishan score the game winner. Alexander Nikishan. That is a joke that I just saw tonight. What the hell did I just witness tonight? What did I just witness tonight? Against Carolina out of all teams. Okay, I understand Leafs are tanking, but damn, son. You could have just gotten 2 points and get to Ottawa safe and sound. But no, we got to make this worse. Go to overtime and get the pity point, which was brutal as Christ. As hell. I don't care. I don't know what the hell happened tonight. The game sucked. It really did. All right. Let's just get to the game and get this off my chest because my God, that was pathetic. All right, so the announcement came, Austin Matthews has to go for surgery for MCI surgery for his leg. Oh Christ, that's like the worst thing that could possibly happen. Thanks a lot, Goose, you freaking pathetic orangutan. I'm not calling anyone names, but man, that game was that guy. Goudis might have been the worst guy to injure my captain. Sorry. Okay, let's get to the game. All right, first period. Okay, let's go with the goalies. So, Joseph Woll starts in it for the Leafs, and then you bring in Bussy for the Hurricanes. Why not Frederick Anderson? Why not Freddie Anderson? Oh, we gotta make this more tight. Of course this happens. Of course. All right, first period of the game. All right, it was a lot worse than you expect. I don't know what the heck just happened. Okay, first off, Leafs get called for 2 penalties. The first one was a trip on Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Leafs killed off that penalty. And then Leafs call off another penalty by Nick Robertson. And truly enough, that penalty was already killed the moment that the Hurricanes took a penalty, which was amazing. Great, but we didn't get the power play for it. Luckily for the Leafs, they were able to capitalize on a goal. And it was a neat feed from Bo Guru to Dakota Joshua, and the Leafs take a 1-0 lead. All right, so at the end of the first period is a 1-0 game. What I didn't like was the fact that Leafs got penalized twice in the first period. That was just unbelievable tonight. Of course, that was unbearable. Second period rolls around, it was actually really bad because the way how Leafs handled this. Okay, first off, Brandon Carlo gets called for a double minor for high sticking. Leafs kill off the first half of the penalty, and of course Eric Stahl scores the goal on the second of the double minor, and the game is tied. Then meanwhile, Eric Robinson gets a freaking penalty shot, and the Hurricanes take the lead. Oh my God almighty. So you're telling me that when the Leafs get a penalty shot, they fail spectacularly. But when it's the other team, like the Hurricanes, for example, they succeeded. What in the heck was that? So that's some biased bull at this point. But John Tavares, of course, does the wraparound. A 5-hole right off of a 5-hole to fool Bussy, and the Leafs tie the game up at 2. Good stuff there. That's when the Leafs get into the power play, and lo and behold, former New York Ranger Andre Miller scores the shorthanded goal. That's when I started losing my patience. Are you kidding me? You let in a shorthanded goal yet again. That is unbelievable. That we just gave up a shorthanded goal to Carolina, mind you, to the freaking Hurricanes. Oh boy. Oh freaking boy. So now it's now a 3-2 Hurricanes lead coming to the second period. After the end of the second period. That's when the third period rolled around. Leafs had their chances, but they couldn't convert it. They had their chances. Just need some scoring opportunity. But then William Nylander with a filthy move, a beautiful move. William Nylander ties the game up at 3, and we're like, all right, let's go. We have momentum. Had some chances to take the lead, but no, it had to go in overtime, which they did. All right. So who's gonna score in overtime? Okay, Leafs were that lazy on the defense in overtime, and of course it wasn't on Seth Jarvis. It wasn't on Sebastian Aho. Guess who it was? Alexander Nikishan scored the game winner. What? Nikishan scored, and that's the game. Oh Christ Almighty! That is one of the most pathetic, one of the worst games in history to let the Hurricanes get away with the win. Back-to-back overtime wins. They won in overtime against the Penguins. Now the Leafs lose in overtime to the, you guessed it, the Carolina Hurricanes in overtime. Well, it's been a long time since the Leafs lost in overtime, since the debacle where Easton Cowan got literally bullied from behind, where it should have been a penalty on Detroit, and yet they got away with it. Unbelievable. That game was one of the biggest bailouts in the history of sports to allow the refs helping Carolina get the win. Every call that the Hurricanes got went their way, especially a penalty shot that was outrageous. Like, how do you not play discipline? This wouldn't have happened. But no, it has to go the way of the dojo. By the way of the dojo, I mean it has to go the NHL's way to allow the Leafs go on a downfall and the bad teams to win. The Carolina Hurricanes aren't a bad team, don't get me wrong, but they're a good team. But what the hell did I just watch? I'll never know. Quite possibly the worst game I've seen. Don't ask why. I don't care what's coming. I don't care. So now, Leafs have lost in overtime. Great. Yet again, for the first time since the Detroit game. Oh my God. Out of all the overtime games I've seen, not including the Olympics, I've seen, the 4-3 overtime loss to the Seattle Kraken, where the Kraken got the biggest bailout in history. Then, the LA Kings made the Leafs blow a 2-0 lead in November. And the Columbus Blue Jackets the same night, well, not the same night, the next week, where Max Domi turns the puck over and let Adam Fantilli score the game winner and ruining a Leafs comeback. And then you go to December, where the San Jose Sharks made the Leafs blow a 2-0 lead, where the Leafs squandered the 2-0 lead. And in the Detroit game, Leafs were up 2-1 on the road in Detroit to allow, Simon Edvinsson to score the game winner because Dennis Hildley flopped on the goal, which was unbelievable. Oh, God. And then the next one, even worse, then was Austin Matthews surpassing Matt Sundin in the scoring record. But you allow Matthew Schaefer to ruin it. To allow Schaefer to ruin Austin Matthews' night in Long Island in a loss to the Islanders, and then you go to the Vegas. You go to play against the Knights, and the Leafs were up 5-3, and you let the Knights come back, and the Knights made the Leafs blow a 5-3 lead by Jack freaking Eichel. Then the next game, Leafs lost in overtime because there was no penalty on Detroit, because Easton Cowan got bullied from behind, got held from behind, whatever the penalty was, no call to allow Dylan Larkin to score the game winner. And now we lose to the Hurricanes. We do some dumb stuff to let Alexander Nikishan score the game winner. That is a freaking disaster. A freaking joke. Oh my God. That is a lot I can say. It's just embarrassing. And now, tomorrow, Leafs got to go to Ottawa. They got to go to Canada and play against those ungrateful swines in the Ottawa Senators. The little brother of Ontario. If we lose to the Senators, hell breaks loose. I swear to Christ. But my God, that was the biggest, one of the worst games I've seen. In overtime, to allow Nikishan to score the game winner. Embarrassing. Insulting. Ah, Christ Almighty. Ah, Christ.